where'd this intersection come to? How'd you guys meet?
And so like we just started roasting each other and a friendship formed. It's just so crazy. It goes to show like you should post content just for the sake of like relationships that you have no idea how they might impact you. Because
when I got on TikTok, I did it out of anger. I started to create like anger content, essentially going against sort of these get rich quick schemes and trying to educate people on how people actually get rich. And he was giving really solid, good information on entrepreneurship and on money. And so I could tell that for me, so much of our struggles with money can directly be related to our...
Some people have resistance to changing the game they're in, aka changing jobs, because
I think we're all here to like have a good experience in life, to be around the ones we love, to have happiness, have joy, help other people have that experience, and stuff just doesn't do it. And so
I actually started feeling guilty when I started making money because
Welcome to Mick Unplugged, where we ignite potential and fuel purpose. Get ready for raw insights, bold moves, and game-changing conversations. Buckle up. Here's Mick.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Mick Unplugged, and today's exceptional guests are pioneers in their respective fields, each bringing a unique blend of expertise and experience that has transformed the lives of countless individuals. One is a groundbreaking financial expert, and specifically in financial psychology. The other is an entrepreneur and digital marketing powerhouse. Together, they represent the powerful intersection of psychology and entrepreneurial spirit. Please join me in welcoming the transformative, the visionary, and the amazing Dr. Brad Klontz and Adrian Brambila. Fellas, how are you doing today?
hey, thanks so much for having us.
I am honored to have both of you here. And, just talking a little bit offline and knowing a little bit about your stories from what me and my team have done. Honored to have you both here. And it's about to get real on Mick Unplugged, man. Like financial psychology, something that we definitely need to go into, in digital marketing. I mean, it's 2024 going into 2025. If you don't have that plan, you're not being seen. So I'd love for each of you to just take a moment, tell the audience and viewers a little bit about your background and how you got here. And I'll start with Dr. Brad.
Yeah. So first of all, Adrian and I are here together because we have a recent national best-selling book, Start Thinking Rich. And that's really what we've been focused on lately.
Yeah.
And the passion there has been essentially what can we teach people who want to level up their finances, their relationship with money. And so for me, I grew up in a lower income, broken family. There was drama, there was trauma, and we didn't have any money. And I looked around and I saw a lot of hardworking, God-fearing, good people. And Adrian has a very different story, but some parts of my family have been around since the Mayflower. And as a young kid, I'm like, why are both sets of grandparents, why are we in trailer parks? Like, what's going on here? Like, it doesn't make sense. The American dream has not worked for us along the way.
Yeah.
And so as a kid, I just got really curious about that. I remember going to one of my friends' houses and having dinner with his family. And I just thought they were so rich. And I was so intrigued by this. And in retrospect, it was like a middle-class home and it had 2 bathrooms. And for me, I was like, that's incredible, 2 bathrooms. To me, that was like that's what I decided rich was. But I remember sort of interviewing this guy. So I'm in 6th grade and I'm interviewing this guy, my friend's dad. Like, what do you do for work? Like what? And I was just fascinated about how do I get into this world? And then fast forward, I became a clinical psychologist, essentially to try to help people grow and heal childhood trauma and wounds, which I had a lot of. I mean, I had to get over myself. And then I got out of school. I owed $100,000 in student loan debt, and I had no idea how to get out of debt. And I saw a friend of mine make $100,000 in a year trading stocks. And this is just before the tech bubble. And I got really excited. I sold everything I had of value. I started to trade stocks. And then the tech bubble broke, and I watched all my money melt away. And that's when I became a financial psychologist, because I'm like, why would a reasonably intelligent person be his own worst enemy? Obviously I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know how to do it, but I got sucked into sort of a get rich quick scheme. And then my friend was sucked into. And that really set me on the search to research the psychology of money, the psychology of wealth. So what are the psychological differences between ultra wealthy, middle class, low income? And then secondly, how can we use psychology to help people improve their relationship with money?
Wow, that's amazing. I want to unplug a couple of things before I come to you, Adrian, there. So, Dr. Brad, we were talking offline and you told me for all the hip hop folks out there, you were the original B Rabbit, right? Like you grew up outside of Detroit in 8 Mile. No, I'm joking.
I used to go to the club, they were playing house music back when I went, but I used to go to the same club that they filmed
Yeah,
in.
but what's amazing for you, and I know it's something that all the viewers and listeners can connect with. As a kid, for you, seeing 2 bathrooms was like, holy crap! Like that's amazing, right? And I know that there are a lot of us that had that same sense when you saw something, and maybe it wasn't 2 bathrooms, right? For some people, it was like, "Whoa, like your dad lives here?" Right? Like to see something as a kid that just makes you say, "Life is different and there's a thing that I can get to." Would you say that 6th grade year old Brad is what kinda started that connection of, "Okay, if I strive, if I set goals, if I create standards, I can have 2 bathrooms too." Like, was that kind of the genesis of who you are now?
Yeah, I think it's like I think one of the biggest psychological barriers for people around success is the belief that if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that if I could sell anything to your audience, it would be the belief that if they can do it, I can do it. And so I think what you have to have too, quite frankly, is a role model that you can connect with.
Yep.
And so Adrian has a whole story. He has a different background than I do. You do too. And I
Yep.
think it's like whatever it takes to get over the hurdle, like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And so that's really what we're trying to do. And so that's why I actually like to talk about my journey of growing up lower income and coming from a pretty tumultuous history with some trauma in it and all that, because I think a
Yep.
lot of people can relate to that. And it's like, whoa, if he could do it, maybe I could do it.
Right.
And I think to me, that's the biggest barrier.
No, wholeheartedly, which is a great segue to our digital marketing and entrepreneur guru over here, Adrian. So, Adrian, a little bit about your background and how you got here today, brother.
Well, I think the first thing I like to talk about is in college, my parents, I grew up in a Mexican household. They, to a deficit, saved so much money to make me the very first Brambila to graduate college debt free. So always will be indebted and grateful for them. And then
Yeah.
my first semester in college, what did I do with that amazing gift? I started partying and drinking and like doing what everyone else was doing. And then when I came back after first semester to my dad, he asked, "Are you working hard and studying?" And I lied to him. I said, "Oh yeah, of course I am. Like,
Yeah.
of course." And then on my flight back to Dubuque, Iowa, I went to a really private, small school. I felt really guilty, so I
Mm.
actually cold turkey quit drinking and partying. And in Dubuque, Iowa, there's not much to do besides that, especially in the winters. So
Yeah.
I went to YouTube and I started looking up like hobbies. I learned guitar, and then one of the things I picked up from YouTube was learning how to dance the robot. And after a couple years of learning how to dance on the internet, T-Pain had an open call audition to submit a YouTube video, and I did, not thinking anything would happen, and I actually made it to the audition. Already, I felt like my life was changed. This was my
Yeah.
sophomore year in college now, and then I made it to basically be a professional full-time dancer backing up for T-Pain. So I feel like my life changed a lot in that experience, but dancing was always a hobby. I never wanted to be a pro dancer. I just felt really like it was God's miracle. And
Mm.
the most defining moment in that whole experience, which I think has really changed the way I look at success and redefining wealth, is T-Pain launched a song in front of the dancers. I remember the first time he did this. He did this a couple times, but the first time was crazy because he's like, "Hey, you guys want to hear the new song, see the new music video before it rolls out?" And we're like, "Yeah, of course." So he plays it for us. It's called Reverse Cowgirl, by the way. It's not a very good song. It's also not about a Western. When
Right.
when he launched it, he played the music video, he launched it, and this is like, I would say not in the prime of T-Pain, but just a little bit after. So he's still on the radio and stuff like that. And back then, this is 2010 era. Uh, there's no Spotify, so every
Right.
song is iTunes. You pay 99 cents to download.
Yeah.
And he launched it. Within a couple minutes, we're looking at the dashboards. He looks over his manager, like, "Hey, yeah, launch it, launch it." And then you could see like 100,000, 500,000, million downloads. And after like 10 minutes, It was like over 5 million downloads. And I was trying to comprehend, like, I think, wait, yeah, he just made millions of dollars in a minute. And it was just so hard to comprehend because, like, I think this is a good thing for when you're scrappy, when you have nothing, this mindset that, like, I need to work hard to make a lot of money. I need to sacrifice a lot in order to become wealthy. And these are all things I used to consider true, but what I was watching was a total opposite. Obviously, not to discredit where T-Pain came from, because he has a really harsh background as well. But just in this moment, I'm meeting T-Pain. He's only 5 years older than I am. And he just looks over at his manager. They launch a song, something
Yeah.
he loves to do for fun. And then it's just around 10 a.m. After that, he just gets obliterated, like super drunk. And this is a regular thing. And so I'm watching, like, wait a second, where's the sacrifice? Where's the working hard? I'm watching someone party like a rock star, make music for a living, and have an abundance of wealth. So it really shattered a lot of the traditional beliefs I had of, like, what it means to make a lot of money. Because although T-Pain definitely did have to sacrifice and work hard, as any successful person did, that's, I think, one window of wealth and success is, like, there's actually other factors in the equation that I think are a lot more healthier. Because one thing I had to work through when I started creating YouTube content after dancing on teaching people how to dance a robot, which was my first business, I actually started feeling guilty when I started making money because it didn't fit this script that I inherited, that money had to be painful and I had to work hard for it.
Yeah.
I had to change it to, actually, if I create value, the more value I create, the more money I make, which is the same script that I had to evolve, and I still have that today, which is pretty healthy. So from dancing, I basically grew the #1 website online teaching people how to dance the robot, and that led to a whole different world of, like, learning how to market yourself as a dancer. And then I started experimenting with all the different ways you can make money online. And I've done them all except for anything like NSFW or selling feet pics. But man, I've tried everything.
He's
So,
got ugly feet. Otherwise,
so I was literally gonna ask as a follow-up question, how did you guys meet? But now I know you were teaching Dr. Brad how to do the robot. And so
He's
no,
I,
so awesome story, man. Like, so that does lead me. How did you guys, where this intersection come to? How'd you guys meet?
you know, TikTok is such an incredible place, and this is why I encourage everyone, even if you don't consider yourself or identify as an influencer or content creator, like, I think everyone should be creating content just for the sake of, you never know who's going to come across your message, who's going to
Yeah.
see it. Like, Brad and I are completely opposite on paper. He's really educated. This is our book together is his 9th book. And our paths we would never come across each other ever. We're just totally different circles. There's an obvious age gap. Sorry, that's just fucking fun.
what?
Dang, bro.
Sorry, we actually, no joke, we started becoming friends on TikTok because we kept roasting each other. I lived in a van, and that's how I got really popular online during the pandemic. I would talk about how I have a super high income. And I was really transparent back then. I would say, hey, I made $100,000 last month, and I live in this van, and I only work 1 day a week with Wi-Fi because I literally am in the mountains the rest of the time. And then Brad would make fun of me living in a van. And then I would make fun of Brad pretending I was really smart. And so, like, we just started roasting each other, and a friendship formed. And it's just so crazy. It goes to show, like, you should post content just for the sake of, like, relationships that you have no idea how they might impact you, because it was such a privilege and honor to get to work with Brad and collaborate with him on a book. Because I think if it wasn't for TikTok, I wouldn't have this amazing lifelong relationship.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Brad, like, what was it about Adrian that you were just like, I got to get to know that guy? What was that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've done a lot of research on rich mindsets.
Yep.
And quite frankly, when I got on TikTok, I did it out of anger because my nephews were showing me TikTok videos, and they're great and they're so funny, and you get sucked in. And then all of a sudden, I saw videos pop up about day trading.
Hmm.
And and people telling you what stocks to buy. And I made this much yesterday. And I got so upset because I remember I lost all my money day trading
Yeah.
like in early 2000s. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's back. And I got really worried because my nephews and kids his age are seeing this misinformation around money. And so I started to create, like, anger content, essentially, going against sort of these get rich quick schemes and trying to educate people on how people actually get rich,
Yeah.
because I've done the research and went along that path myself. And then I saw videos of Adrian popping up, And he was giving really solid, good information on entrepreneurship and on money and managing money. And so I could tell that this guy had a rich mindset. And so I started commenting on his videos, and then we became friends, and then we started roasting each other after we were friends. But it really did develop a relationship there. And so I had to develop a rich mindset the hard way. His parents actually instilled much of that in him. And his incredible story. I've met his parents, and we often talk about, or at least I've noticed, that it's really tough to compete with an immigrant mindset. Like if you're ever in a competition with somebody who's an immigrant, it's like, good luck. Okay, so there's a good chance they're going to work way harder than you, and they're just hungry for it. But yeah, I saw that manifest in him, and it was, of course, we were friends for several years, and then we both had, I think, an inspiration to try to help out our audience. And so that's where this book came, is sort of the manual that I wish I had growing up around, the psychology of wealth and how do they think and what is their mindsets and what does the research say about how we get wealthy, and then weaving in Adrian's incredible inspirational stories from his childhood and his family stories, family history, as well as how to make more money too. That's part of it. Like part of it is investing, and how do you invest, and what's the mindset, and how do you save more? And then another component is how do you make more money? Because that's actually more fun than budgeting and cutting out all the things you love in your life to try to reach a financial goal. So the combo, I think, is first of all, you only get one life, and I want to spend that life with people I love and my friends. And Adrian is one of my dear friends, and so it just made this project so much more fun and so much more valuable collaborating with him.
Oh, that's amazing. And, we talked about how on Mick Unplugged, we talk about your because, that thing that's deeper than your why. And I think for both of you, that's truly resonating with the power of the book. So, Adrian, from your perspective, what are like two things that people are going to get from this book, right? So what are two tips or two pointers that this book is going to help solve for the listeners and viewers?
I think working with Dr. Brett Klontz, I learned so much about the psychology of wealth. I have an assumption that there's thousands and thousands of books on money. And I have an assumption that actually everyone knows what to do to get rich. They know, correct me if I'm wrong if you have a different opinion, but I believe people know that they should save more than they should spend. I also assume that people know they should invest in things like their 401k or anything that's for their future self, and not just hoard it all in a bank account. Now, if that's the general assumption, I would call this common sense. Why is it that the average American has not even $10,000 saved for retirement and has racked up credit card debt and is living a lifestyle? Why is it that 50% of people that make six figures live paycheck to paycheck? Why is it, if we know the tactics? So I truly believe, and this is just learning from someone that's like Dr. Brett Klontz, who studies millionaires, is that's the psychology of how we think about money that really affects if we execute on the tactics. So the first thing is really just understanding that your beliefs about money keep you poor. Also, your beliefs about money are the same beliefs that can get you rich. So your beliefs about how the world works, how money works, do you associate a negative connotation with it or positive? Is money just a medium? Is it a tool? Like thinking about how it's affected and then, think about how we were raised around money, which affects a lot of our life. Yay, more things we can blame our parents for. But we have to work through these things. I actually just in my opening story, I shared like my parents, I thought I was learning a really good habit: work hard, sacrifice. But when you think in terms of like living in having a mindset of having an abundance, then those things actually aren't in the formula, because today I don't know if I can say I'm working hard, yet I'm making more money in a month than I did used to work in a whole year. And I feel like I was working harder back then. So I think really that first step is like the psychology of like understanding what your beliefs are, and then realizing that most of us don't get good beliefs from our parents. We have to work through those. And then also like the internal locus of control versus external locus of control. These are fancy words of saying like, how much of your life do you feel like is in your control? And how much do you feel like, does life happen to you or does life happen because of you? Now, understanding that life 100% can't be in our control, but this is really just more of a mindset of how you look at things. Because if you feel like there's always external things happening to you that like you can't make more money because your boss is a jerk. We're about to change presidents here because of the new president. You feel like they're going to oppress you. Or the current president that was, you feel like you couldn't be successful because of who was in office last 4 years. Like all these, like there's infinite amount of excuses. You can blame the external circumstance. And so this is typically a thing that we define. This is how poor people think. And again, poor
Right.
people, I'm just talking about a way of thinking. It actually has nothing to do with money. It's just a thought process. And same thing with thinking. When I say a rich person, I'm actually not talking about their money. I'm talking about the way they think. So the way you think affects everything. What your beliefs are affects everything. Because I believe once you lock in, have awareness of what your beliefs are, and you work on trying to change your habits and beliefs, the tactics become really easy.
Right. Right. That's awesome. So for my psychologist now, Dr. Brad, I want to take some things that Adrian said and get your take on it, or have you explain it to us. So the latter part of what you just said, Adrian. So, it's thinking like a rich person, thinking like a poor person. Dr. Brad, can you give us some examples of that? Like this is how a poor person is thinking, whether it's a scenario or example or whatever. And then this is how a rich person thinks through that same thought process or scenario.
Yeah, so I've done research on thousands of multimillionaires and looking for these patterns. So giving them tests on locus of control, giving them tests on their specific beliefs around money. And so we've found very, very clear patterns here. And the first one that Adrian spoke about, which I think is so, so important, is that locus of control. So taking personal responsibility for as much as you possibly can turns out to be the most effective mindset across the board when it comes to income, net worth, success in school, success in relationships across the board. That is the mindset you want to embody. So always be looking to take more responsibility in your life.
Okay.
Like if you walk in the door, your wife's grouchy at you. It's real easy to blame her, because I'm great. I'm out here hustling. I love her. I take care of whatever. Why is she so irritated at me? Okay, that's great. You can blame her the rest of your life and be unhappy the rest of your life. Or you can say, well, okay, so what is it that I can do? Like think about it. Have I been really expressing to her how much I appreciate her? Can I take some of that action? So by the way, that is the hack to so much happiness and joy and success in life. The other one we found are specific beliefs around money. And these are things like, and we found categories. So Adrian talked about this a little bit. He said, if you have a negative association with money, well, I grew up in a family where we looked at rich people as being greedy, selfish. The only way to get rich is you got to take advantage of other people. And we call that money avoidance in the research. And by the way, that belief set is subconscious for many of us. We inherit it, and by the way, you can then find examples of greedy rich people who are horrible human beings. It's not like there's not a lack of examples of that. There absolutely are plenty, but it's only part of the story. There are also rich people, and I hope everyone listening to this becomes rich and does great things in the world, who cure diseases, who donate their fortunes to making the world a better place, who are actually really, really good people. These are most of the people I've met. By the way, most poor people I meet are really good people, and most rich people tend to be really good people, at least in my experience. That mindset, if you're not aware of it, it will knock you down. It will keep you down. You'll have a confirmation bias where you're screening out all information. Like if I tell you, for example, that some billionaire is donating 97% of their wealth, that money avoidance mindset will say, yeah, but
Right.
they're doing it for these nefarious reasons. And it's like, whoa, I just told you they're giving away 97% of their wealth.
Right.
And so you got to be aware of that. You got to be aware. And so the other thing I'll say, and to wrap this up, is an open-mindedness. So one of the things that's really associated with success, a growth mindset, a rich mindset, is being open to new experiences and open to new information.
Yeah.
And so always being curious. So, Adrian likes to joke that I'm educated. I grew up lower incomes. I always feel like I'm sort of faking in that environment, the educated environment. But one of the things I've learned along the way is the more that I have studied in psychology, the more I realize how much I don't know. It's like I feel like I was way more confident about what I knew before I got a doctorate. And I think that's sort of the mindset you need to have is don't be so cocky. Don't be so self-assured that you got it all figured out.
Yeah.
Because even for us, even for me, when it comes to psychology of money, I feel like I know about this much, I know a little bit. I know a quarter's worth when the world is just so expansive and there's so much more to learn. So always be curious, because you're getting in life right now because of what you know and probably what you don't know. And
Right.
so that curiosity is so incredibly important if you want to level up.
Totally agree. Totally agree. One of my pillars is decision making, right? And I say our days are built of decisions, and people talk about, well, what about choices? Well, choices are external, right? Like I've got a choice to talk to Adrian or Brad, right? I can't control that. Those are the choices that I have. The decision is who am I going to talk to, right? So I'd love to talk to you about the importance of decisions, and I'll start with Dr. Brad. Like, more importantly, from a financial perspective, how important or not important are emotions in making financial decisions? I know your answer because I follow you and I know what you're going to say, but I think it's important for the listeners and viewers to understand emotions when we talk about financial decisions.
Yeah, so my conclusion is that we are absolutely wired to be totally self-destructive when it comes to money. And I've traced it all the way back to our prehistoric days of living in small little tribes of people. And if you want to understand why you've messed up around money, ask yourself what a cave person would do, because that's how we've spent most of our time on Earth. And so, for example, crypto is hot, baby. It's back. Okay. Now, I've been alive long enough to see people lose all their money like several times in crypto, but it's back and it's hot. Okay. And what's going to happen if it hasn't happened already? There's going to be something in the back of your mind because you're seeing all these people making money on crypto. And I'm not sure how many actually are, but they're all over social media. Right. And so,
Right.
what that does to your brain, the tribal brain, it says, oh no, the tribe's running in this direction. I need to go with them. And it's that sense of fear. It's fear that I'm missing out. It's fear that I'm going to get destroyed, whether it's, people selling in the market or buying when it comes to investing. And so if you feel like everyone around you is getting richer faster than you, if you see people running for a certain shiny new object, it is going to be so difficult for you to not go with the herd, because this is baked into your DNA. Your ancestors, imagine a tribe of 150 people back in caveman days, they all get up and they all run north. You're sitting there. Guess what happened to the people who just sat there? They got
Right.
picked off by the saber-tooth tiger, because there's a
Right.
reason everyone's running over there, and it's life or death.
Yeah.
That wiring is inside of us. And so when we see something, even though it's not life or death, it feels that way. We have an animal brain. And so it's really difficult for people to stick with a financial plan, for example. They have actually done studies, and dead investors outperform living investors. So wrap your head around that. Talk about lack of emotion. Well, if you're dead, you're not feeling any emotion and you're not making any trades in your account. You do better than people who are alive, because people who are alive get sucked into, I need to get rich fast, or social media, for example, seeing people with outward displays of wealth. So this is one of the things that we've actually found, is that statistically speaking, most self-made millionaires describe themselves as frugal. They're not the ones that are flashing the brand new cars,
Yeah.
They're not the ones in the middle class home with 2 brand new cars out front. Those people are always going to be middle class, by the way. Studies show that the people who become wealthy are money vigilant. So we talked about those beliefs, right? They believe it's important to save for a rainy day. They're sort of nervous about the future. They're taking chips off the table. They have a vision of the future that they want to invest in. They're not doing what we're wired to do, which is consume everything right now. The whole concept of saving goes against our wiring, let alone not sharing it all with the tribe. This is another huge thing from my socioeconomic background. If anyone got any money, you better share it. Like, what's wrong with you? And so it kind of goes against that lower income tribe too, for you to even be setting money aside. It's like, you're saving 20% of your income. Don't you know your sister's about to lose her house? It's like, what are you doing? And it's like, whoa, I love my sister. But by the way, it's just an example. My sister's doing okay. But it's like, I got plenty of cousins who aren't, and it's like, there's tons of pressure there. So the question you got to ask yourself is, how can I save and invest for my future? Which, by the way, is going to put you in a better position to help out the people you love, frankly, and not fall into that. So for me, so much of our struggles with money can directly be related to our emotional brain and that tribal sort of instinct that we have.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel 100% the same way that you do, which is why I purposely asked you that question because I knew where you were going to go. So now, Adrian, for you, same thing for the entrepreneur, the solopreneur, the person that, they're building a brand digitally and socially. How important is decision making for that person?
Decision making, I think, because we're emotional creatures when it comes to investing in money, I don't believe that anyone has the stomach to consciously invest and win. So
Mm.
the decision is almost one of the most difficult to say because we can't see into the future 30 years. Trying to wrap our minds around time is always so tough to do. When we're having a great time, moments are fleeting. When we're bored, time seems
Yeah.
long. And now we're trying to look, what does my life look like when I'm 65 or
Yep.
whatever age? And so to think, I need to put money in right now, money that is tangible that I could go spend, make that decision every day or every month consciously to then say, I'm not going to touch this money and it's going to be there in 30 years. I think that is so hard of a decision to make. And I think that's why you need to make the decision to invest one time versus consciously every day or every single month. And what I mean by one time, this is one decision you have to make and really not think about is you set up a decision to say, I'm going to invest a percentage or a dollar amount every single month. And that's what we call in finance dollar cost averaging into the stock market, for example, into like a target date fund. And
Yeah.
then that is automatic, it's passive, and then you don't think about the decision. Because I think the problem is when you think about the decision and you're looking at the stock market and it's high or low, our emotions come into play. Well, if it's high, you might say, you know what, it's a little too expensive. I'm going to wait till it dips down. And then if it's crashing, you're like, you know what, how low is this thing going to go? I'm just going to hold back. And so you don't get into the game. So you just got to make that decision actually one time. If anything, I'm oversimplifying, but how easy, if you want to be a millionaire and have money work for you, you just got to make the decision once. You set up the account, you pick your number of how much you want a dollar cost average, and you set it and forget it. And that one decision could literally make you a millionaire depending on that value and how long you're going to be investing for. If you try to make it an active decision, I think
Yeah.
you lose.
Totally agree. And I love the fact that you said that too, because, as I was talking with my kids and we were talking about $1 million, right? And so, Brad, Adrian already called you and I old, right? But for you and I, when we were younger, $1 million was a lot of money, right? I would argue today $1 million isn't that much. It's still a good amount of money, but I don't think it's a significant amount anymore. So much so that I truly believe that with the right plan and more importantly, the right strategy and the right financial acumen and awareness that you have, you should be able to make $1 million a year, right? Because there are people that make $1 million a month. There are businesses that make $1 million a day, right? And I'm talking new money, not rolled over revenue. I'm talking new revenue. And so I'd love both of your feedback or opinion on that. Like, one, what does $1 million mean today? And then what are things people can do to further Adrian's point to set that parameter to make that a realization, not just a dream?
Well, I'll share. This is my 5th year of making over $1 million in a year. And I think that the things that changed from when I was making my first job paid $27,000 a year. And I worked on like my stuff. Most of my money comes from the internet. All of my money comes from the internet. And I needed something that could scale without my time. And
Mhm.
I really think a normal job usually doesn't offer that. You have to have some equity into something, or you have to be in sales and you have to be crushing it. But the internet is just a great avenue. There's so many opportunities where you can work on something once and it can scale. You can build leverage. So social media can, leverage, and having an email newsletter. Like I have 50,000 people on my email newsletter. And with a click of a button, 50,000 people can see my offer. And then that, a percentage of them buy, and thousands of dollars can appear. I think that it's like understanding either leverage or things at scale that you can really make over 7 figures. I never thought I'd be in this position, especially when I was making minimum wage after graduating. And I think no matter what you're doing, momentum, I think, carries forward. And so like it compounds in a way that's hard to fathom. But this is where I feel like working hard and sacrifice were things I did at the beginning. And now I just have this momentum that keeps carrying. But I think the Avenue platform, one of our chapters in our book is about how we make money and analyzing it if you're in the right game. We use a metaphor that how you make money is a game. And it's kind of like, are you playing the right game? Do you know the rules? And do you know like how long you need to play this game in order to get rich? And so when I was making $27,000 a year, there was only one person in the entire call center that I was working at that made 6 figures. It was a manager, and the manager had been there for 14 years. So that to me is like the rules of the game. If I want to make 6 figures at this call center, I probably need to work 10 years here and be on time and like slowly start increasing my income. So some people are in scenarios like this, but they never really like kind of map it out. And when I learned the answers of how the rules of the game of this call center is to make 6 figures, I was like, wow, I'm in the wrong game. I need to find a different game to play. Some people have resistance to changing the game they're in, aka changing jobs, because they have like, it's like lost opportunity cost of like, well, I went to college for this major, or I've already been with this company for 6-7 years. Like, what happens to all this time I put in? When the reality is, if you are unemotional, you just take a look at the rules. Like, you know what? If my goal is to have financial freedom or make more money, then I really need to change the game. And I think if your emotions are wrapped up in your identity of your job, this is what makes it really tough. I feel like when I was a full-time minimalist, I got to really practice this idea of detaching my identity to consumerism or even my job and my income. And I think that's a great practice of like, that's really challenging for Americans because we're constantly marketed that the more stuff we have, the better it is. We need the fanciest upgrade. Like our identity is marketed that it's wrapped up into what we own, or the car we drive and our house. And I think it's just like, I'm not telling everyone you need to live in a van like I did, but I do encourage you to explore what your identity could look like if it wasn't defined by your job or any of the stuff you own. Because I think that's a great position that will allow you to make decisions for yourself that could be better for your life, because you're not attaching it to something that really has nothing to be part of you.
Amen. Brad, your thoughts on $1 million?
Yeah, so, I would say that $1 million goes fast if you're spending it. And if you look at $1 million though as an asset that's going to spin off cash for you, that's when it starts to look really good. And so we talk about in our book the 4% rule, which is essentially how much money do I need to set aside to have freedom. And so one of the things that we define in the book is, what is rich? It is owning your time.
Yeah.
Owning your time. And by the way, so as a psychologist, I've read all the studies on owning stuff. And it turns out that the stuff doesn't really make you happier. I think we're all here to like have a good experience in life, to be around the ones we love, to have happiness, have joy, help other people have that experience. And stuff just doesn't do it. And so if you're addicted to stuff, I worry about you. Because what I have found is that when young people come to me and say, hey, Dr. Brad, I want to become rich. And I say, well, why? And it's like, well, I want to get a Lamborghini. I'm giving sort of the extreme example here. I want a Rolex. I want a Lamborghini. I want a mansion with a pool. I start to get a little bit concerned about that, to be honest. And I understand why we're attracted to that stuff. But unless that young guy, young woman sort of shifts their mindset a little bit, I know what's going to happen because I see it happen all the time. They're going to get a 6-figure job, incredible. And then they're going to go lease a Mercedes, and then they're going to go get the most expensive apartment they can get. They're going to get the best stuff they can get. They're going to get a new wardrobe. And people can stay stuck in that cycle of not creating any wealth for a very long time because they got the wrong focus. And so we're trying to reorient people to owning your time. And so that's where $1 million spinning off $40,000 a year for you. It's like, well, how much more of your time can you own by doing that? And I'll also say this. I believe that everyone can become a millionaire. And by the way, without any fancy hacks, quite frankly. Like I'm in it for the hacks too, right? Like I want to increase my income, etc. I'm a multimillionaire now because of what I'm about to tell you. And I became a millionaire working in a public school, okay, as a psychologist in Hawaii. And I became a millionaire by doing this one thing. when a dollar comes into your life, you save and invest a percentage of that for your financial freedom. And so I've run the numbers on this too. $5 a day invested at average market returns, so you don't even have to do anything crazy with investing, is $1 million in just 42 years. And I say just 42 years, and I know you're saying 42 years, that's forever. And so I always say, well, then invest $6 a day, get there
Right.
faster. I mean, and obviously you want to level up, but I truly believe that everyone could absolutely be a millionaire just by doing that. That's how the math works.
Yep.
But to your other point, let's say that you're making 100,000 and you really want to make $1 million a year, right? And so how do you do that? Well, as Adrian said, are you playing the right game? Because you might not be playing the right game. And you might say, well, how do I play that new game? Well, this is where you have to look at almost going to another tribe. Okay, so now I'm back to my tribal metaphor here. So I grew up in a lower income tribe and we all did things a certain way. Nobody had a 401k. Nobody was doing that. And, money comes into your life, you spend it. Not on lavish things. Whatever, it's gone. That was my tribe.
No.
When I wanted to become a millionaire, I had to learn. It was almost like going to a new country. It's like, these people trust the stock market? Are you kidding me? Isn't that a bunch of greedy bankers taking all our money, keeping us poor people suppressed for my
Right.
entire family? I have to put my trust into them. Well, guess what? That's what rich people do. Rich people have financial advisors. They have CPAs. And you have to overcome all these mental blocks because it's like this tribe is doing things very, very differently. And so that's what I think you need to do is keep looking for, well, what is that tribe that's making $1 million a year? What are they doing? Or making $1 million a month? What are they doing? And then what you got to do is study them. Study their mindsets, their habits. What are they doing? How are they looking at the world? What sort of businesses are they in? Because what I have discovered is if you decide what it is you want, and you can find some models on people who've gotten it, it's a very simple path. You just replicate it. It's like nobody's out here doing magic. Maybe there's a couple people who are, but most of it's you can replicate it. When I decided to be a psychologist, it's like, oh, how do people do it? Oh, well, they do this and this and this. Okay. And the first time I tried to get into graduate school, I wasn't accepted. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I got to do the next time to get accepted? It's like, if you decide you want it and you're willing to put in the effort, you can absolutely have it. But understand this, other people have achieved these things. You just need to figure out the formula and replicate it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Adrian, Dr. Brad, you both have been so amazing with your time today, and this was a straight financial masterclass. And so I applaud you both for the work that you're doing in the communities that you're a part of, and more importantly and selfishly for the community here at Mick Unplugged. So definitely appreciate the work that you're doing. So where can people find and follow you? And I will make sure in the show notes and descriptions we have links to the book and everything as well too.
Awesome. Yeah, our book, Start Thinking Rich, is available everywhere you get books. But as a way we can say thank you for having us, and to your audience, we do have a place that you can get extra bonuses, resources, tools, and worksheets. Also, a really amazing community. We just did we have a monthly mastermind that we just did where we kind of go over the same financial process my wife and I do that kind of help us keep our finances in touch, a pulse. And we just do it once a month, and that's how we manage all of our wealth. The funny thing is, I remember when I asked Brad this, I was like, do rich people budget? And he's like, the truth is, rich people don't budget, but we do plan. And so it's kind of one of the things that we bake into our community. So that resources and more is at startthinkingrich.com/unplugged. And that's a special link just for your audience here to get it. Otherwise, you can get the book everywhere. And I'm on social media. You can look me up at Adrian Brambila, and then at Dr. Brad Klontz as well. We're on all the platforms.
Good stuff. When is the next robot competition?
Next time you're in Austin, let's break it down.
Hey, I'm there. You know, I'm close to Austin with my oldest son, so I will definitely be out there.
Epic.
Awesome. Dr. Brad, any final words of wisdom for the group?
I feel like the biggest thing is to just realize that you can have everything you want to have. And if they can do it, you can do it. And so if you can just flip that switch, you can have anything you want in life. I'm convinced, and I believe it.
Totally agree. Again, thank you both for taking time. For the listeners and viewers, remember, your because is your superpower. Go unleash it.
Thank you for tuning in to Mick Unplugged. Keep pushing your limits, embracing your purpose, and chasing greatness. Until next time, stay unstoppable.